Did I finally find the perfect or almost perfect capo? Now, before I answer that, I want to make it clear this is not a sponsored video. I have spent my own hard-earned money on every capo I'm going to talk about. You can see all these back here. I just want to help you avoid wasting your money. As I like to say, I make the mistakes so you don't have to. So if you've watched my channel for a while, you know I've been on this career-long quest to find a capo that lets me switch fret positions without having to retune. I just want to be able to move up and down without having to retune. So I'm talking about a capo that would approximate the way my hand frets the strings, right? If I can play an A bar chord at the 5th fret and it plays in tune, why can't I find a capo to put at the 5th fret and play an E shape like that, right? That's also in tune. I mean, this isn't a big deal if I'm playing at home or in the studio because I can take the time to put on the capo and retune to make sure everything sounds right. But when I'm playing live, it's such a time waster and buzzkill to retune every time I put on the capo or switch fret positions. So what is the solution? Is there even one? Stick around for this important guitar discovery. All right, capos, capos, capos. Why do they even matter? I mean, contrary to what some players say, they are not a cheater's tool. I mean, many of the greatest guitarists use them. But why is that? Well, I'm going to do a whole video about when and how to use a capo, but for now, I'll just share that I often use one just to raise the key of a song to make it perfect for my vocal range, or in my duo Cosmic Spin for my partner Bara's vocal range. Now, other times I'm layering guitars and I want to blend one uncapoed guitar with another capoed guitar, different hand positions. And that gives me this cool ear-catching blend. It's kind of like having a tenor and an alto sing together. Still other times, I just want that magical high-pitched guitar tone, like when George Harrison put a capo way up at the 7th fret for Here Comes the Sun. I just did a tribute to a friend who passed away, and I put a capo all the way up at the 8th fret. So obviously capos are useful, but why am I whining about them? You know, what is it about most capos that frustrates me? Let's start with spring tension capos. A lot of capos use a spring to press the fretboard pad into the strings and the neck, right? Like this. I'll show you right there. So a spring with constant tension is going to put more and more pressure on the strings as it moves up the neck, because that's where the neck gets thicker. The necks are always slightly thinner down here and they get thicker as you get up toward the heel joint. The problem is one or more strings are going to pull sharp because of that increasing pressure, and maybe all of them. Now, when I say a lot of capos have springs, I mean Kyser capos. They're about 25 bucks. This G7th Nashville capo, this is also about 25. The glider rolling capo, this guy, is about 35. And then at the high end, there are Thalia capos. Big fancy box. These are typically $70 to $90. But because the spring tension isn't adjustable on any of these capos, they'll only work adequately on specific guitars. Again, they'll likely be fine if you don't mind retuning whenever you switch fret positions. Next, there are screw-based capos. These have a thumb screw or dial, so you can dial in the least amount of pressure that will press down the strings with no fret buzz. One of the cheapest is D'Addario's Tri-Action capo. It has this micrometer tension adjustment, they call it. And for about 23 bucks, this is pretty good. It's a lot like the Kyser or a G7th, but with an adjustable spring, which does help. There are standard Shubb L1 and C1 capos, each about 25 bucks. They have a screw mechanism. You dial it in and then you snap on the capo. So there's a little guesswork involved because you have to do trial and error to find the screw position with the least amount of necessary pressure. And that amount's going to change as you move up the neck, right? Now, a lot of bluegrass players like the Shubb Fine Tune F1 capo. This is like 75 or 80 bucks, so it's not cheap. This is a cradle style capo. It pushes on the back of the neck from the center, and it eliminates guesswork because you snap it on, you start turning the dial, and you do it with the capo in place. You can strum across the strings, and you just turn it until every note sounds clean, right? The minimum pressure until every note is clean. Now, something else I haven't mentioned about necks is that neck width often tapers down toward the nut, or you could say it widens up toward the bridge. Just be aware that a cradle style capo like this one, it might be too narrow to fit the higher frets of a wider neck. Paige makes a cradle style standard capo for about 40 bucks. Then they have this fancy PC6 ETI that frets each string separately for about 70 bucks. Wasn't worth it for me. Taylor now makes cradle style capos too, so you can check those out. Now, with any of these adjustable screw-based models, having a dial definitely gives you more flexibility to decide how much or little tension you need to eliminate buzzing. And because they minimize pressure on the strings, I find they generally pull strings out of tune less than most spring-loaded capos, because spring-loaded capos have to have a fairly high tension to work on most guitars. All right, then there's the radius problem. Another major variable in addition to neck thickness, which is front to back, right, and width, side to side, is a guitar's fretboard radius. That is the curvature of the fretboard from side to side, and it's measured as the radius of a circle. I'll do it this way. So a fretboard can be anything from flat, like on a classical guitar, to what they call a 7-inch radius, where if you extended the curve of the fretboard, right, it would create a 14-inch circle that's 2 times the 7-inch radius. It's kind of a lot of curve, but it's common on vintage Fender necks. Now, one thing about the capos I've mentioned is that they're usually shaped to approximate some generic amount of fretboard curve, but that curve may or may not match your guitar. Right? Think about this. If the capo curves, but your neck is flat, the capo is going to put extra pressure on the outer strings, right? But then if the capo's flatter than your fretboard radius, if the fretboard radius is curved, right, it'll put extra pressure on the middle strings and maybe not enough on the outer strings, so they'll be more apt to buzz. So, trying to solve this radius problem can get pretty complicated. Thalia has tried to solve it by including a whole set of 14 fretboard pads with each capo. So check this out. Here's the capo on the outer piece. There's a full set of what they would call standard tension pads, okay? Basically 7 of those. And then high tension pads, another entire set of pads. So 14 pads to try to solve the problems created by fretboard radius. That seems great, right? But remember, Thalia capos have a fixed spring tension, right? So if your neck is particularly thin, you're going to need to use their thick high tension fretboard pads. But if your neck is super thick, you might actually be out of luck, too much pressure. So that's what happened to me with this 1965 Harmony Rocket. I invested in a Thalia capo for it, almost $100, right? But because the Rocket has a thick baseball bat of a neck, the capo is basically unusable on this. I mean, it pulls the strings way out of tune. Check this out. If I put it up at the 5th fret, obviously, at this point in my long career, I've become an unintentional capo collector, right? I've gotten into the habit of testing multiple capos on each guitar until I find the style and brand that works best for that particular guitar. That's how I've accumulated so many capos, and quite a few I never use. So that's why I fantasize about finding one capo that works for any guitar, or better yet, every guitar. And for just $30, could this possibly be it? This is the D'Addario Pro Plus capo. I mean, it looks innocent enough, right? It's simple and clean. It's got this easy turn dial to adjust the pressure. And the spring actually works in reverse. Instead of closing up the capo, it actually holds it open, right, until you tighten this. So it comes in black or silver. And you don't have to guess where to place it left to right on the fretboard, because you just nestle it up against this curve here, right up to there. I'll do this here. And then start turning the dial. A lot better. Now, they have the audacity to claim that this capo is ideal for acoustic, electric, classical, and 12-string guitars. In other words, for everything. I mean, to me, it looks similar to other capos and brands, but there is one thing truly unique about this design, and it's thanks to the one and only Ned Steinberger. Now, Ned is the innovative guy who created those headless basses and guitars you saw everywhere back in the 1980s. Now, those weren't just a novelty. Steinberg was originally a furniture designer, and he created the headless bass to solve a real bass player's problem. Neck dive, right? Normally a bass headstock is very heavy, and the neck dives. Not with a headless bass. Now, in the case of this Pro Plus capo, Steinberger ingeniously solves this problem of inconsistent pressure across the strings. D'Addario calls this little innocuous looking pad a FlexFit Fretboard Pad. And they make some huge promises on this little card. Thanks to our revolutionary FlexFit technology, the pad used on the capo arm of the D'Addario Pro Plus capo mimics the way the anatomy of the human finger functions when fretting a string. So you never have to worry about unwanted buzzing, muted strings, or intonation issues caused by varying capo pressure. With minimal overall pressure, every string rings clear, clean, and in tune. Is that really possible? Because it's not true of all these other capos, right? Now, the D'Addario website also says the pad has dual rubber construction composed of a soft internal rubber and a harder durometer shell, whatever that is. It adapts to individual string height and neck radius, mimicking the biological construction of a finger. All right, so what's the bottom line? Are they telling the truth? Will this really work on any guitar? I'm going to test this on my 6 most challenging, and you can be the judge. I mean, how easily can I dial in a buzz-free capoed tone? And then how out of tune will the strings be when capoed at the notoriously difficult 1st fret, or the typically capoed 3rd fret, or the high and bright sounding 7th fret? All right, I want to start with acoustic guitars. My 1964 Gibson J50. This has low action, right? And it has a thin standard width 60s neck, gets wider up near the bridge, usually pretty easy to capo. Okay, there it is with no capo. Let's put this on the 1st fret. Minimal pressure, right? A little tighter. Clean. Let's go up to the 3rd fret. I didn't do any adjustments, right? Not too bad. Let's pop it all the way up to the 7th. Very close. I can certainly live with that. Quick comparison of that to, let's say, a G7th capo. You can hear on the G7th it's putting extra pressure on the outer strings. All right, next up, my 2002 Martin HD40. This is a big-bodied dreadnought. It's got medium action, and it also has a V-shaped neck. Now, I normally pair this with a Shubb fine-tuned capo for, $75-80. Let's see how the Pro Plus does for less than half the price. Here it is open. capo at number 1 here. Close to perfect. All right, let's go to the 3rd fret. Take that up to the 7th fret and see what we got. On the meter, it's basically right on. Okay, here's the problem child, my 1988 Takamine N1012. This has a very thick and very wide neck. I mean, it's hard for me to reach around this thing. And of course, the 12-string acoustic is always a challenge to capo cleanly without using a ton of pressure. Let's try it. Here it is open. Okay, let's put that capo at the 1st fret and see what we got. Holy cannoli. Okay, that's pretty clean. Let's go up to the 3rd. I can live with that. Let's go all the way up to the 7th. I do find that when you get pretty close to the fret, it works the best. Not totally snuggled up to it, but pretty close. Wow. Totally livable. I gotta say, that is impressive. All right, let's move on to electrics. 1968 Gibson SG Special. Like my J50 Gibson acoustic, this has very low action. It's actually the thinnest neck I own. It'll be easy for the Pro Plus to put pressure on, but because the frets are very, very low, they're not jumbo frets, it may require, actually I find this one can be tough to capo, so we'll check it out. Let's put a capo at the 1st. All right, move it up to the 3rd and let's play it in the D position. Not perfect, but pretty good. Okay, all the way up at the 7th. Let's see what we got up here. let's compare that just for grins to the G7th. If I put that up here at the 7th fret. See how high that is. Yeah, it's just too much pressure. All right, what about the thickest neck I own? This is a 1965 Harmony Rocket, has medium action. See what happens? Capo 1. It's about as good as it was open. All right, up to the 3. Not perfect, but all right, and up at the 7th. Just for grins, let's compare what happens with the $100 Thalia capo on this guitar. Those low strings are way up. Crazy. Just too much pressure. All right, finally, just to keep things fair, we have to test an electric 12-string, right? Another capo challenge. This is my Nashville-made Jerry Jones Neptune 12. It has a nearly flat fretboard, so we're going to see if it pulls out a tune at the sides from the slight curvature of this capo. Oh, here it is open. I'm amazed how little pressure I have to put on to get a clean tone. Pretty good. All right, capo 3. It's a little high. Let's see what happens when I go all the way up to the 7th fret. Considering I didn't do any retuning, that's pretty crazy. 12 string, 7th fret. All right, this little guy is a major guitar discovery for me. If this D'Addario Pro Plus works on all 6 of these guitars as well as it does at any fret, for me that's a wow. I mean, I'm a convert. I'm just imagining how simple my life could be without all those other capos, right? So if you want a nearly universal capo, I do encourage you to try this. This is a D'Addario Pro Plus. Now, if you use the link in the description, I will get a very small commission, which helps support this channel, and you're going to pay the same price anyway. All right, so for a lot more gear and tips to make you a better guitar player and singer, check out the over 200 videos I've posted at guitardiscoveries.com. You're also going to find my deep dives on classic songs and favorite bands like the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, Zeppelin, and great singer-songwriters like James Taylor, Cat Stevens, Paul Simon, and Jim Croce. Or you can just watch this.